The planet Zeta 9 was dry, hot, and full of war. Smoke always floated in the sky. Distant gunfire echoed day and night. It was not a place for normal people. It was a place for mercenaries, fighters from many planets who came to make money, win battles, and survive. But Jace wasn't a fighter. He was a human technician, smart with machines, shy with people, and usually ignored. He worked in the back of the mercenary camp, fixing broken drones, radios, or damaged armor. No one asked his name. They just tossed him broken tech and walked away, except for one. Her name was Rakala. She was tall, strong, and covered in heavy gray armor. Her skin was dark green with silver tribal markings. Her sharp eyes could make even battle-hardened warriors stay quiet. She was known as the Storm of Zeta. Everyone feared her. Everyone respected her. Jace secretly admired her. He watched. Her walk passed every day. She moved like a queen of war, powerful and calm. She rarely smiled, but once, after a big victory, she nodded at Jace when he returned her repaired plasma rifle. That small nod made his heart race. He knew he had no chance with someone like her. Still, he couldn't stop noticing. One afternoon, Jace was fixing a comms unit near the edge of the camp. The heat made him sweat, and sand stuck to his clothes. Nearby was Rakala's war tent. It was bigger than the others and guarded by a flag with her clan symbol, a silver claw. He heard movement inside, a soft clank of metal. Then, the tent flap lifted a little. Jace turned his head by instinct. Inside, Rakala stood tall, her back to him, removing her heavy armor piece by piece. Her muscled arms flexed as she unstrapped her shoulder plates. Her long silver hair dropped, free from her helmet. She was half-turned, he saw only for a second, but it felt like forever. He quickly looked away, face red, heart pounding. "Oh no," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." But it was too late. The tent flap opened fully. Rakala stepped out. She wasn't wearing armor now, just light warrior cloth around her waist and chest. Her silver eyes locked on him. "You peeked." Her voice was deep and calm. No anger, just a statement. Jace stood frozen. I didn't mean to. I swear it was an accident." She stepped closer. Her shadow fell over him. "You looked," she said again. Jace felt like his legs would give out. "I wasn't trying to. It was just, you were—" The wind blew the tent. Rakala didn't speak. Instead, she reached out, grabbed the front of his work vest, and pulled him up to his feet. "You're coming with me," she said. Before he could say anything, she turned and dragged him straight into her war tent. Inside, the air was cooler and smelled of metal oil and fire herbs. Maps and weapons covered the walls. A large battle screen flickered in the corner. Her armor pieces lay neatly on a rack. A strange, round bed sat near the back. Rakala let go of him and crossed her arms. "Why were you near my tent?" Jace swallowed. "I was fixing the comms unit. That's my job. I wasn't trying to spy, I promise." She stared at him for a long moment, then her head tilted slightly. "You're the tech human, aren't you? The one who fixed my plasma rifle." Jace nodded quickly. "Yes, that was me." She took a step closer. "You're smaller than I thought. Soft hands. No combat scars." I don't fight," Jace admitted. "I just fix things." Her lips curved slightly. Not a smile, but close. "You peeked. That means you're curious. Curiosity is not weakness, but it must be controlled." He blinked. "You're not angry?" "If I were angry," she said, walking past him, "you would already be outside. Or broken." She picked up a long training blade from a weapons rack and tossed it to him. Jace barely caught it, stumbling from the weight. "You peeked," she said, circling him like a predator. "So now you train." Jace looked at the blade in panic. "What? Me? No, I can't fight." You will learn. You stared into a war leader's tent and lived. That takes nerve. Or foolishness. I want to know which. I'm just a tech, he said. No one's ever trained me to fight. Then today is your first day. She raised her own blade. Lightweight, sharp, glowing blue. Jace shook his head. This has to be a dream. Lesson 1, Rakala said. Never look away in battle. Before he could ask what she meant, her blade swept low and hit his leg. Not hard, but enough to knock him off balance. He fell to the floor with a grunt. Get up, she said calmly. He groaned and stood. This is crazy. But part of him didn't want to run. Not anymore. Outside, the camp continued its daily routines. Guns fired in the distance. Smoke curled into the air. Mercenaries passed by without caring. But inside Rakala's war tent, something had changed. The soft human had peaked, and now the storm of Zeta was watching him closely, maybe too closely. Jace stood in the center of the war tent, holding the heavy training blade with both hands. His arms were shaking. He had never held a weapon before. He wasn't built for this. He fixed machines, not fought wars. Rakala circled him slowly, her silver eyes calm but sharp. She was barefoot now, moving silently across the floor. Her strong body moved with grace and control. The blade in her hand glowed with a soft blue light. You are slow, she said. You grip the blade like it's a toolbox. Jace tried to adjust his grip. That's because it feels like a toolbox, just heavier and scarier. She stepped closer. Then stop thinking like a builder, think like a warrior. I'm not a warrior. You peeked into my world, she said firmly. Now you walk in it. Jace sighed. His hands were sweating. This doesn't make sense. I didn't mean to look. I was fixing the comms unit. I just turned my head for a second. Rakala tilted her head. And in that second, you saw what others never dare. My skin, my back, my guard down. He looked away, embarrassed. I wasn't trying to spy. I know, she said. If you were, I would have broken your legs. He flinched at her words, but her tone was calm, almost teasing. Rakala raised her blade again. Lesson 2. You face fear with action. Ready yourself. Jace took a deep breath and lifted the blade. His arms felt like noodles. He didn't want to fight her, but deep inside, something else stirred. He didn't want to look weak either. She lunged. He panicked and swung wide. The blade missed. She stepped to the side easily and tapped his shoulder. With her own blade. Dead, she said. Jace stumbled back. You're fast. You're slow. She moved again, this time from the left. Jace managed to block the blow, but the force pushed him off balance. He fell again. She stood over him. You fell better this time. Great, he groaned. I'm good at falling. She offered her hand. He hesitated, then took it. Her grip was strong, pulling him up easily. Why are you doing this? He asked. Why me? Rakala paused. I have studied hundreds of warriors, fought dozens of species, but humans, you are different. He blinked. Different how? Your bodies are soft. Your bones break easy. But you survive wars others do not. You fight with heart, not just strength. I want to understand why. So you're training me. As a test? As a lesson, she replied. For you. And maybe for me. Jace looked down at the blade in his hands. I never wanted to fight. Then why are you still standing here? She asked. That question hit him hard. He didn't have a clear answer. Maybe it was her voice. Maybe it was the strange respect in her eyes. Or maybe he didn't want to feel useless anymore. Back on Earth, people never noticed him. Out here, among aliens and warriors, he was even more invisible. But Rakala saw him. He looked up and raised the blade again. Okay, let's try again. The next hour was painful. Jace fell, got hit. dropped the blade more than once. But he also blocked a few attacks, learned to move his feet, started to understand how she fought, not just with speed, but with rhythm. Rakala didn't laugh at his mistakes. She corrected him, showed him how to stand, how to breathe, how to survive a real fight. For her, it wasn't about hurting him, it was about pushing him. When they stopped, Jace's body ached. He dropped the training blade and sat on the floor, breathing hard. "You did better than I expected," she said, sitting across from him. "That's not saying much." "You didn't quit," she said. "Many do." He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Is this what you do every day?" "No," she said. "I usually train with blades twice a day." Jace groaned. "That sounds like torture." "Only if you fear pain." There was a moment of silence. Outside, the camp was quiet. Evening was near. The sky turned orange over the dusty mountains. Jace looked around her tent. "You live here? All the time?" "Yes. I travel from war to war. I build no home. I trust no one." He nodded slowly. "That sounds lonely." She didn't answer. He looked at her carefully. For the first time, he saw something behind the armor. Not just a warrior, but someone who had lived a hard life, someone who had seen too many battles, someone who didn't know peace. "I'm not a soldier," he said quietly, "but I'm not useless either." "I know," she replied. Jace looked, surprised. She met his eyes. "You fixed my weapon. You repaired my scout drone. You study details. You think fast. I need minds like yours, not just blades." "Then why train me with a sword?" She leaned forward. "Because if you stay in this war zone, you will face death. I want you to face it with your eyes open." Jace nodded. He understood now. She wasn't punishing him for looking. She was preparing him for what came next. He stood up slowly. "Thank you, Rakala." She stood too. "Tomorrow, same time. Bring better shoes." As he stepped toward the tent's exit, she called out, "Human." He turned. "Next time you peek," she said with a small smirk. "Do it with honor." He laughed nervously and left the tent. Outside, the air was still hot, but Jace felt something different inside him. Confidence, purpose, maybe even pride. He had entered the war tent by accident. But now, he wasn't sure he wanted to leave. Every morning, before the camp woke up, Jace walked toward Rakala's war tent. His body ached, his arms felt sore, and there were bruises on his legs and shoulders, but he came anyway. She was always waiting, blades in hand, calm and focused. "You came again," Rakala said on the fourth morning. "I'm a slow learner," Jace said with a tired smile. "Takes time." "No, you're a fast learner," she replied. "You just don't believe it yet." That day, she didn't go easy on him. She moved quicker. Her blade spun faster. But Jace had started to understand her movements, how she stepped when she struck. He still lost every match, but now he lasted longer before falling. At night, he returned to his workbench in the tech shed. He cleaned weapons, repaired scanners, and studied war maps. His hands were busy with tools, but his mind replayed every fight with Rakala. He began designing something new, a small device to attach to her armor. It would warn her if energy weapons were aimed at her from behind. After 3 nights of testing, he brought it to her. She looked at the device in her palm. "You made this?" "Yes, it's a sensor alarm. If a sniper locks on you, it will beep. Could save your life." Rakala nodded slowly. "Useful. You think like a hunter." "I think like someone who doesn't want you to die," he said honestly. For a second, something changed in her eyes. Not emotion, but something softer. A few days later, a crowd gathered in the center of the mercenary camp. There was shouting, cheering, and the sound of weapons clashing. Jace pushed through the crowd and saw a fight in progress, two alien warriors sparring with heavy blades. Blood hit the dirt. It wasn't just training. It was a challenge. "Trial of honor," someone said behind Jace. "Loser leaves the camp." Suddenly, Rakala stepped forward from the shadows. The crowd went silent. Her voice was clear and loud. "Threx, your time here is done. You failed the last mission. You endangered the team." Threx, a bulky, red-skinned mercenary, turned and snarled. "You question me, Rakala. You train with a soft human and call me weak?" the crowd muttered. Rakala stepped closer. "You talk too much. Fight or leave," Threx pointed at Jace. "Then let him fight. Let the pet human defend your pride." Jace froze. The crowd laughed. Someone shouted, "Yes, let the human fight." Rakala's eyes narrowed. "Enough! He is under my command." Jace took a step forward. His heart pounded, but he didn't. "Back away. I'll fight him," Jace said, "but not with strength, with brains." The crowd went quiet again. Threx laughed. "What does that mean? You'll write me a poem?" Jace smiled. "No, I'll set a trap." 10 minutes later, the field was cleared. Jace stood in the center, holding 2 small shock grenades and a metal staff. He had asked for 5 minutes to prepare. Threx had agreed, laughing the whole time. Rakala stood at the edge, arms crossed, watching carefully. The fight began. Threx charged forward, heavy blade raised. Jace ran back, fast but careful. He led Threx straight toward a small pile of sandbags where he had hidden one of the grenades. The grenade exploded with a flash of blue energy. Threx stumbled, shocked and dazed. Jace hit him with the staff, once, twice, 3 times. Threx roared and swung wildly. Jace dodged left and led him into another trap, this time a wire connected to a power cell. When Threx stepped on it, a small shockwave knocked him off his feet. The crowd gasped. Jace ran in and pressed his staff to Threx's chest. "Fight's over!" Threx groaned, eyes wide with disbelief. The field was silent, until Rakala walked forward and raised Jace's arm. "The human wins." Cheers exploded from the crowd. Some laughed, some clapped. Many looked at Jace with new respect, but Rakala didn't laugh. She leaned close to Jace and said, "You didn't win with muscle. You won with mind. I was right about you." Jace smiled through the pain. "I just don't like bullies." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Come, there's something I want to show you." Back inside her tent, Rakala stood in front of a large display screen. It showed a map of the region, a place called Iron Gate Valley. "Enemy forces are gathering here," she said. "The next battle will be hard." She pointed at a narrow canyon. "I plan to attack from this side, but we need someone to sneak in first. Disable the enemy sensors. Set traps." Jace looked at the map. "You want me to go?" "I trust you," she said. "You see things others don't. You don't fight like them, but you fight well." He felt nervous, but proud. "I'll do it," he said. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're no longer just a technician." He looked up at her. "What am I now?" Rakala smiled, her first true smile. "You're becoming a warrior." That night, Jace sat by his workbench, preparing tools for the mission. His hands moved quickly, building shock mines, EMP darts, and signal jammers. Outside, the stars were bright. The camp was quiet, but inside Jace's mind, everything had changed. He had entered the war tent by mistake. Now he was part of it, and soon he would prove that even a soft human could turn the tide of war. The sun rose slowly over the sharp rocks of Iron Gate Valley. The air was dry and silent, filled with the smell of dust and war. In the distance, black smoke floated above the enemy base. Jace lay flat on his stomach, hidden behind a large boulder. His body was covered in desert cloth and light armor. A small headset buzzed in his ear. "Status?" Rakala's voice came through, calm and steady. "I'm in position," Jace whispered. "No patrols nearby. Going in now. Be quick. We move once the enemy sensors are down." Jace took a deep breath. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. He had spent all night studying the base layout and building his gadgets. Now it was time to use them. He crawled toward the fence. A drone flew overhead, scanning the ground. Jace stayed still, holding his breath. When the drone passed, he moved again, fast and low. At the edge of the enemy base, he found the sensor. Tower. A blinking red light showed it was active. Jace pulled out his EMP dart, aimed carefully, and fired. St! The tower sparked and went dark. "Sensor down," he whispered into the comm. "Good," Rakala replied. "Prepare your traps. We strike in 5 minutes." Jace got to work. He planted shock mines near the gate, dropped spike bombs near the fuel tanks, and placed signal jammers on key rooftops. Every step was fast, quiet, and smart. Then he slipped into the shadows and waited. 5 minutes later, the sky lit up. Rakala and her strike team charged from the hills. Plasma blasts flew through the air. Enemy alarms screamed. The base was caught off guard. Jace watched from his hiding spot as Rakala led the attack. Her blade glowed bright blue, cutting down enemy bots. Her war cry echoed through the valley, like thunder. One enemy soldier tried to activate a defense turret, but Jace's jammer blocked the signal. Another stepped on a shock mine and was thrown back by electricity. Jace smiled. His traps were working. But then, something went wrong. A large war drone, the size of a truck, rolled out from the hangar. It had twin cannons and thick armor. Rakala's team ducked behind cover as it fired. "Jace!" Rakala shouted through the comm. "That drone is too strong. We need another way in." Jace thought fast. He remembered the fuel tanks behind the hangar. "If I can blow the tanks," he said, "the shockwave might knock it out." "Do it," she ordered. Jace ran through the chaos, staying low, dodging bullets and flames. He reached the fuel tanks and saw the spike bombs he planted earlier. He aimed his small blaster and fired. Boom! The explosion was huge. Fire shot into the sky. The shockwave hit the drone hard, knocking it over. One of its legs broke and it stopped moving. The mercenaries cheered and charged forward. Jace didn't have time to rest. He spotted Rakala fighting 2 enemies at once. She was fast, but one of them had a plasma spear. Jace ran toward them, pulling out his last device, a flash bomb. He threw it. Flash! The light blinded the enemies. Rakala took them down with 2 fast strikes. She turned and saw Jace standing. There, breathing hard, holding an empty weapon pouch. "You again?" she said, smiling slightly. "Always," Jace said, grinning. The base was taken in less than an hour. The enemy surrendered. Fires burned across the compound. Mercenaries walked through the ruins, gathering supplies and guarding prisoners. Jace sat on a crate, tired and sore. His arm was cut and his leg was bruised, but he was alive. Rakala walked over and sat beside him. "You fought well," she said. "I nearly died 3 times, he replied. "Good. That means you learned something." Jace chuckled. "I learned I don't like being shot at." She looked at him. "But you came anyway. You didn't run." He nodded. "Because you trusted me. I didn't want to let you down." Rakala was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Most warriors train for years, but you fought like someone who understands war." "I understand fear," Jace said. "And I understand machines." "That's enough," she said. "For now." Jace looked around the ruined base. "What happens next?" "We move to the next front. There are more battles coming, bigger ones." He sighed. "Of course there are." Rakala stood up. "Come, the others are preparing camp. You're one of us now." Jace blinked. "I am? You fought beside me. You bled beside me. That makes you part of my war band." He smiled slowly. Thanks, Commander. She raised an eyebrow. Call me Rakala. We are not strangers anymore. He stood and walked beside her as the sun began to set behind the mountains. The sky was red and gold, filled with smoke and light. That night, back at the temporary camp, the mercenaries celebrated their victory. Fire pits burned bright. Aliens of all shapes and sizes laughed, shouted, and shared food. Jace sat quietly, watching them. He still felt out of place. But he also felt something new. Respect. He wasn't just the soft human anymore. He was the human who helped win the battle, and Rakala, she didn't treat him like a mistake. She treated him like someone who mattered. As the stars filled the sky, she walked over to him. "You will rest tonight," she said. "Tomorrow we begin again." He nodded. "Yes, ma'am," she smirked. "Good. But next time, try not to peek again." Jace laughed. "Too late for that," he said. They both smiled, and somewhere deep in the war zone of Zeta 9, a strange friendship, maybe something more, continued to grow between the soft human and the storm warrior. After the battle at Iron Gate, life in the mercenary camp changed. The camp was louder, filled with new energy. Soldiers talked about the fight with excitement. They told stories of the soft human who had helped win. Some whispered, others laughed, but no one ignored Jace anymore. Rakala walked beside him as they moved through the camp. Her eyes scanned the crowd, watching carefully. "Not everyone likes the attention you get," she said quietly. Jace looked confused. "Why not?" "I helped win the battle." Rakala's lips tightened. "Some think you are a weak human playing at war. Others are jealous. You should be careful." Jace nodded. "I don't want trouble." Rakala smirked. "Trouble finds trouble." One afternoon, as Jace repaired a damaged scanner, a loud voice interrupted him. "Look who it is! The human prince of the camp!" The voice belonged to Threx, the red-skinned mercenary who had lost to Jace during the trial of honor. Jace looked up, trying to stay calm. Threx strode forward, heavy boots shaking the ground. His large muscles flexed, and his sharp teeth showed, in a cruel smile. "Didn't think a human could fight," Threx said, "but I guess even pets get lucky sometimes." The nearby mercenaries laughed. Jace stood slowly. "I don't want to fight you again, Threx. That was enough." Threx stepped closer. "You should learn to back your words, or leave this camp, before you embarrass Rakala again." Rakala appeared behind Jace, tall and dangerous. "Enough, Threx," she said, voice cold. "You want to challenge Jace? Fine. But we settle this in the arena tomorrow. One fight. Winner stays." Threx growled but nodded. That night, Jace barely slept. He didn't want to fight Threx again, but he also knew he couldn't run. If he lost, he would be out of the camp and maybe worse. Rakala visited him before dawn. "You are ready," she said simply. "You have the skill and the mind. Trust yourself." Jace looked at her. "I'm scared." "Good," she said. "Fear keeps you alive." The next day, the camp gathered in the fighting arena. The crowd was loud, filled with cheers and insults. Threx stepped into the center, muscles flexed, and blade ready. Jace entered slowly, holding his staff and a small bag of gadgets. The fight began. Threx charged hard, swinging his heavy blade with great force. Jace dodged quickly, using his speed to stay out of reach. Threx swung again, and Jace blocked with his staff, feeling the heavy impact. "You're faster than before," Threx said, angry. Jace smiled. "I learned from watching you." Threx roared and attacked again. Jace used a small smoke bomb from his bag. The arena filled with thick gray smoke. When the smoke cleared, Jace was behind Threx. He pressed a small shock glove against Threx's back. Electricity surged through his body. Threx collapsed, stunned. The crowd went silent. Jace stepped back, breathing hard. Rakala walked into the arena, raised Jace's hand. The human wins. Cheers exploded. Threx stood slowly, anger burning in his eyes. But he nodded at Jace, a quiet respect in his glare. Later, in the war tent, Rakala looked at Jace. "You surprised everyone today?" she said. Jace smiled tiredly. "I surprised myself." She laughed softly. "You're more than just a peak now. You're part of the storm." He looked at her seriously. "Thank you for believing in me." She touched his shoulder. "You earned it." Outside, the stars shone brightly over the camp. Two warriors, one human and one alien, sat quietly. A new bond had formed, and the war was far from over. The enemy was stronger than anyone had expected. Their fleet arrived faster, bigger, and better armed. The camp buzzed with tension. Weapons were cleaned, plans were whispered, and every soldier prepared for the worst. Rakala stood on a high ridge overlooking the valley. Her armor reflected the rising sun. Next to her, Jace checked his gadgets one last time. "This is bigger than before," Jace said quietly. "They want to wipe us out." Rakala nodded. "We won't let them." She turned to the strike team. "We attack before they surround us. Jace, you will go with me." Jace swallowed but nodded. "Ready." The plan was simple but dangerous. Rakala's team would strike deep into the enemy camp. Jace would disable their defenses and set traps to slow their reinforcements. The night was dark and cold as they moved through the shadows. Jace's heart pounded, but his hands worked quickly, planting shock mines and hacking enemy communication lines. Suddenly, blaster fire erupted. The enemy was awake. Rakala shouted orders. "Form up! Protect Jace!" Bullets flew past as they advanced. Rakala fought with fury, her blade a flash of blue light. Jace fired his small energy pistol, backing her up when enemies charged. But then a blast hit Jace's shoulder. He stumbled, pain burning. Rakala was by his side in seconds. "You're hurt," she growled. "I'm fine," he said, gritting his teeth. "No, we finish this. Then you heal." They reached the central command tower. Jace set the last of his devices to jam enemy sensors. Rakala planted charges on the power generator. "Go!" she shouted. "I'll cover you!" Jace ran for the exit, but a group of enemy soldiers blocked his path. He ducked behind a crate and threw a flash grenade. The bright light blinded the enemies. Jace used the chance to sprint away. Outside, Rakala fought her way through enemy reinforcements. Her armor was scratched and scorched, but she moved like a storm, relentless and deadly. Jace reached the camp's safe zone. He helped medics treat his wound. The pain was sharp, but he smiled. "We did it," he said. Rakala appeared, breathing, hard but alive. "We won today because of you." Jace shook his head. "We won because we fought together." The camp celebrated the victory, but everyone knew the war was not over. Rakala sat by a fire with Jace. The stars were bright above them. "You changed," she said softly. "From the human who peaked to the human who fights." Jace looked at her. "You changed me," she smiled. "And you changed me." They sat quietly, the night cool and full of promise. The stars burned bright over the mercenary camp on Zeta 9, their cold light casting long shadows across the dusty ground. The war had changed many things, especially Jace. He was no longer the shy human technician who accidentally peeked into Rakala's war tent. He was a warrior now, a part of something bigger than himself. Rakala stood outside her tent, looking at the horizon. The sky was streaked with red clouds from distant fires. She turned as Jace approached, his steps steady and sure. "You're ready," she said quietly. Jace nodded. "I never thought I would be," she smiled, a rare, soft smile that reached her fierce eyes. "Come inside," she said. Inside the war tent, the air was warm and smelled of leather and machine oil. Armor pieces rested on racks, and a large holographic map flickered softly. On a table, Rakala motioned for Jace to sit. "I want to tell you something," she said, her voice low. Jace leaned forward, curious. "I've never trusted anyone," she began. "Not before I met you. Warriors come and go. Friends are few. But you changed that." Jace looked surprised. "Me?" "Yes," she said. "You showed me that humans are not just soft or weak. You fight with your mind and your heart. You make me believe in something I thought was lost." He felt a warmth spread inside him, a mix of pride and something deeper. A sudden beep from the table broke the silence. The map shifted, showing new enemy movements. Rakala's eyes narrowed. "They're bringing in a fleet," she said. "More than before." Jace stood, ready. "This war is not over," she said. "But we will face it, together." Rakala handed Jace a new piece of armor crafted from the strongest steel of her home world. It was light but powerful, designed to protect and move with him. "This is yours," she said. "A symbol. You belong here." Jace smiled and accepted it. The next morning, the camp was alive with preparations. Soldiers checked weapons, repaired vehicles, and shared stories of battles won and lost. But Jace and Rakala moved with purpose. They stood side by side, ready to lead the next fight. Jace's mind raced with plans and ideas. His experience as a technician and a fighter made him a unique leader. He was not the strongest, but he was clever and brave. Rakala trusted him. As the sun rose, their small warship lifted off. The sky was clear, but danger waited beyond the stars. Jace looked at Rakala. "Thank you for everything." She nodded. "For peeking?" He laughed. "I guess it was the best mistake I ever made." She grinned. "Then let's make sure the galaxy remembers the soft human who became a storm." Their ship disappeared into the blackness of space, carrying two warriors bound by trust, respect, and something more. The war was far from over, but together they were unstoppable.